The president delivered a record-breaking 108-minute State of the Union address last night. Joining us to break down some of the key moments is our panel, Democratic strategist Hyma, along with Republican strategist Matt Klink. Great to have you both back on. Now, President Trump yesterday outlined a new retirement plan that would have the federal government match a portion of contributions made by American workers when their employers don't currently offer a match. Let's take a look.
I'm announcing that next year my administration will give these often forgotten American workers, great people, the people that built our country, access to the same type of retirement plan offered to every federal worker. We will match your contribution with up to $1,000 each year.
Hyma, I want to ask how significant this proposal is. Does it compare at all to President Biden's Secure 2.0 Act? Could this be an area for bipartisan agreement, you see?
Yeah. Hey, Jack, good to see you, and thanks for having me back. Look, I think this was probably one of the better moments from a bipartisan perspective of President Trump's speech last night. And it has similarities to President Biden's initiative that was proposed just a few years ago. I think this will be really significant for the American worker, the American industry. I think what can also help if the president invests in housing and lowering costs and ensuring jobs to continue to grow in these states. But this is a really great step forward. And I do think it can have some bipartisan support.
Now, Matt, over to you. What do you think this would mean in practical terms for American workers? How meaningful could the impact be?
I think it's very significant to put as many Americans as possible into some type of retirement fund over and above Social Security, and especially something that's invested in the stock market, which yields consistently higher returns than Social Security over the long run. I think it's a boon for the United States, and frankly, for folks that don't have access to this. So yeah, it's great. I would love it if something bipartisan would happen. I think that Donald Trump is so toxic that anything that the orange man touches, Democrats immediately recoil.
Well, there was another light note during this speech when the gold medal winning U.S. men's hockey team was invited to the State of the Union. Let's take a look.
Here with us tonight is a group of winners who just made the entire nation proud. The men's gold medal Olympic hockey team. Come on in.
Now, there were many Democrats joining Republicans in a standing ovation for the athletes. Hyma, what was your feeling watching that moment? Do you share national achievements like sports have the power to cut through political polarization, or are those moments, you think, becoming rarer?
Look, the first thing I thought was I would love to have one of those sweaters. They're absolutely beautiful. Hey, Jack, I'm old enough to remember when sports, right, when sports were the great unifier, and I think, you know, we all have had such an incredible 5-10 years post-COVID where we just need some really good news to bring the country back together. And the Olympics tend to do that. Looking forward to LA in 28. That's all exciting. And so, look, I think Democrats were right about cheering for this team. Both the women and the men brought home the goal, and we're proud of them. And these are moments that should make you proud to be American. But it shouldn't be the only moments that make you proud to be an American. I think sports are going to be something that will always bring us together. But obviously, the president can do a little bit more to be less divisive.
Matt, how can moments like this help shift the conversation back toward unity, toward the idea of one nation?
Well, look, everybody who is an American citizen should be incredibly proud, not only of the men's team, and the women's team that won the gold. I mean, other than, Canadian tears, maybe if you have an affinity in your heart for Canada. But other than that, look, America, we dominated. We finished. I mean, the Winter Olympics aren't really our thing. Norway still came out on top, but we had the most number of gold medals ever. I'm just writing an article about this right now. I want America to win the gold, silver, and the bronze and everything. I want America to dominate. It shows that a free country like ours has the best athletes. We let the best develop. This is pure meritocracy. There's no You don't get in here because of who you know, or you either are a great athlete or you're not. And America dominance is a good thing for the world. And politics has no place in sports. It's a place where, a liberal Democrat from New York City can coalesce with a conservative Republican from Georgia and root for Team USA. And I don't care what your views on abortion or gun control are. I just want America to win, period.
Great. Well said.
And to do it nonetheless on the 250th anniversary. Hyma, I want to switch it over to you here and just get your response on, do you think that the U.S. is at a turning point in terms of going back to a more unity because of what we're seeing in, with America 250 this year?
Look, I don't think so. I don't want to get above beyond the skis here. I think this is a wonderful moment, and I think Matt has completely framed it perfectly. I hope that this is a blueprint for how we can come together and have these really great unifying moments. Like I said, this year, the 250, looking toward 2028 for the LA Olympics, these are moments that we can really show that all the things that the world has seen about America, heard about America over the last decades are false. We can come together. We do enjoy being with each other. We do enjoy rooting for our country. We do want to promote American innovation and American ingenuity. And so I think this could be a blueprint. I'm not quite sure this is the turning point just yet.
Sure. Let's pivot back to the speech now. Roughly half of the congressional Democrats did not attend President Trump's address. Matt, what was your reaction for their reasons for not attending? Was that an appropriate move politically, you think?
No, it's weak on their part. You know what? It's their job to show up. You respect the office. You don't have to respect the person in that office. So basically, half of the Democratic caucus decided that they weren't going to do their job last night. And frankly, it makes them less able to offer criticism because they didn't even have the desire to sit in the audience to hear the speech. And it also highlights how weak Minority Leader Jeffries is. What he should have said and what Nancy Pelosi would have done, she would have said, if I have to endure this speech, you're going to endure it with me. Suck it up and sit down and listen to the speech. And having, Tlaib and Omar shriek out, it makes them sound foolish. They're never going to shout down a president who's standing up with a microphone. It didn't work when Joe Biden was president, with a much softer voice, and it didn't work for Donald Trump. So the Democrats look foolish and weak when they don't show up.
Now, there were several competing anti-Trump events held at the same time, and they were across the ideological spectrum from liberal to very progressive groups. Hyma, what was the strategy behind that? Does it reflect possible divisions within the Democratic Party?
Look, and maybe we're also having one of those unifying moments because I'm having a hard time disagreeing with Matt today on certain things. I have great respect for Leader Jeffries and for Leader Schumer, and I agree with Matt. If Nancy Pelosi was still the leader or the speaker, she would have had that entire caucus there, and it would have been unified. What I'm disappointed in, and I've expressed this not just here in the media, but to my friends who work in the House. Last year, Joint Address to Congress was just poorly done. There was no unified message from the Democrats. We spent more time talking about what the Democrats did wrong than all the lies that President Trump spewed last year. And so getting to this year, it wasn't much better. And so I don't think this is a moment that shows there's a divided party. I think the problem is the leadership has not galvanized the Democratic House or the Democratic Senate enough to be unified behind one strategy. That's the problem. Now, what they were trying to do is they wanted to make sure that the American voters knew that they did not agree with what the president was going to say or what the president said, which is fine. It's okay to have a counter argument. I think they should have been there, and they should have used Abigail Spanberger, who I thought was brilliant last night, as the salient objection to Donald Trump, instead of having all of these antics that are not going to resonate well with the voters.
Now, there was also last night a powerful moment featuring victims of crime. Among them was the mother of the Ukrainian refugee, the 23-year-old who was stabbed to death on a train in North Carolina. President Trump also called on Congress to pass the Delilah Law, named after 5-year-old Delilah Colden, who was severely injured when a tractor trailer driven by an illegal immigrant struck her family's vehicle. Hyma, over back to you. Democrats often emphasize compassion in immigration debates. How can they respond to cases like this without appearing dismissive of the victims?
Look, I worked for mayors and for governors who are Democrats, and I worked in New Orleans, Louisiana, during a time where my former boss, Mitch Landrieu, was dogged about bringing crime down. We went to nearly every murder scene and met their families thereafter. And so, look, I reject the premise of this question. I think Donald Trump, in some ways, uses these very sad situations as props. No one wants to support crime or American families or those who are living here to be killed or to be hurt. And so I don't think Democrats are trying to look unconcerned. I think Democrats are trying to say, look, I understand that. Obviously, we want to be compassionate about it. But if President Trump was serious about bringing down crime, we would reinvest in this money into cops. We would put money in local law enforcement. We would grow these local law enforcement units. I mean, Chicago, New York, New Orleans, San Francisco, they all can add about 500 cops, to make those cities a little bit safer. And so I think instead of talking about it in the State of Union address, I want the president to be a little bit more serious about his investment on the ground.
He's been serious, Hyma. Crime is at record low levels, and also crime is a Republican plus 13 issue. Look, in California, the reason for this law, Governor Gavin Newsom's department issued 17,000 commercial driver's licenses to illegal immigrants who didn't speak English. That's the problem. So again, this is the part of the Democratic plan. You give people who enter this country illegally more and more of the benefits of being American citizens. If you can't read street signs, you have no business driving an 18-wheeler. And the reason why Donald Trump uses victims to highlight this is because the Democrats and the mainstream media refuse to discuss it. They ignore it because they want to make illegal immigrants legal in this country. And the American people aren't going to stand it. Crime is down because Donald Trump has cracked down. He's cracked down in cities like Washington, D.C., and he's done a good job in terms of stopping crime from coming over the border with no people entering the country illegally, I think, for the last 5 or 6 months. So that's a good thing. And if the Democrats want to talk about crime, again, this is a Republican plus 13 issue. Republicans will win this debate 6 days of the week and twice on Sunday.
Look, I think it's time to stop talking about what's plus R plus D. The American people don't care about that. They want to be safe. They want to be consistent. They want to have services delivered to them.
And they are under Donald Trump.
They would prefer to bring. And most Americans are not identifying as Democrats or Republicans. They're identifying as Americans, and they're sick of the BS.
And that's why Donald Trump is doing something about it, and Joe Biden didn't.
Well, the American voters are very much looking forward to the midterms, and so we'll see what issues come out there. Matt Klink, Hyma Moore, great to have you on as always. Thank you very much for sharing your insights. Appreciate it.